just how the U.S. government does this sort of thing. The CIA went into Angola in July of 1975. We started out with $6 million, and eventually the total budget was $31 million. The first effort was arms that were sent from America to Kinshasa in U.S. Air Force C-141 planes. And then from Kinshasa, we hauled the arms into Angola in smaller airplanes. The total was about 1,500 tons of arms, 30,000 rifles and small rockets and mortars. Our funds and arms were going to 2 of the 3 Angola factions. One of them headed up by Holden Roberto, who had had a relationship with us for about 15 years, and to Savimbi, who had not been well known by the CIA. He had the sole virtue of being in opposition to the MPLA, whom we were determined to oppose. President Mobutu of Zaire wanted this program. We bribed him. We gave him $2,750,000. CIA officers went in as advisors and trainers. They were called intelligence gatherers, but in fact, they were preparing our allies for combat.
I fled to San Salvador on January 16th. What did the enemy do in San Salvador? You mean what I saw? The Americans were there. How do you know they were Americans?
When
the villagers saw them with their own eyes, they saw they were Americans. There were 20 Americans. These Americans, what did they look like? Were they white? Were they black? Describe them. They were your color, comrade. They were not black. They had chestnut eyes. You know, whites.
There were not enough CIA advisors to make a great deal of difference, however, and we hired European mercenaries, and we tried to hire white Angolan refugees to go back in as mercenaries fighting on our side. The CIA collaborated with the South Africans, and it was not officially ordered by the National Security Council, but there was liaison at all levels. The CIA was nervous about the role the Senate might play in this war. Senator Clark on the Foreign Relations Committee made a trip to Africa to review the situation, a fact-finding trip to report to the Senate. The CIA watched him with some apprehension to see that he didn't get information we didn't want him to have. The Senate, led by Senator Clark, shut down the Angola program in December of '75. While the Senate was shutting us down, the Cuban army, eventually of 10 to 15,000 combat soldiers, MiG-21 aircraft, tanks, just swept over the FNLA in UNITA. And we lost decisively.
A victory that will change the course of African history. The victory of the heroic people of Angola.
Nevertheless, I think we could have won the thing if we had gone in very quickly. When I went out there and came back, I recommended that, I said the forces are about equal right now. And if we go in with immediate, abundant support, we can win. We can take Luanda. By that, I meant tactical air and American advisors. Put in several hundred troops very quickly and put in some of these really monstrous weapons, airplanes, you know, that fly around shooting 8,000 rounds a minute down, and you'd have been into Luanda just like that.
It appears from what you said that you advocated that the United States should go into Angola with large weapons, lots of firepower, a small detachment of Americans, and that your plan was rejected, and that was the final straw that did it for you.
No, that's very definitely a misunderstanding. Yesterday we got distracted. We were into that and then we didn't get a chance to pursue it, probably changing of cameras or something. I was sick at my stomach that we were going into Angola. I was depressed. that the agency would be letting itself get dragged into another paramilitary adventure that quickly after Vietnam, when it would obviously not succeed. We couldn't possibly stay with it. The Senate, the press, and the public wouldn't be about to let us escalate something up to the level that it would have a chance of winning. And it would be highly damaging to the nation and to the CIA particularly to let ourselves get dragged into such a thing. Once, and at the outset when they offered me this job, then I had a choice of, what do I do? Do I participate, or do I resign, or do I quietly lobby for some other job and let someone else run the Angola program? And my decision was that I was going to stay with the program because it was too interesting to see how does the United States get dragged into these things, and how does the CIA conduct them once it's in them. I don't think anybody could turn down that kind of an opportunity. Just to know that it's not what some newspaperman is telling you what happens when he doesn't really know himself. It's what's really happening. You were there running it. So I decided to participate. And in order to make sure that I remained on the inside, I remained a good soldier throughout the whole thing. I did not balk or fight it until we got into phases that I thought were just beyond the pale, such as alliances with the South Africans and mercenaries, for example. When I went to Angola, I was sent out there to come back with a military assessment. And that's what I recommended when I got back. If you guys want to win, we can do it. A dramatic weapon, a horrendous weapon, if you will, against the MPLA at that time would have just brushed them aside. It would have decimated them. It would have wiped them out. And the FNLA would have been into Luanda in a few moments' time.
Well, suppose they had taken your military recommendation. How would you have felt?
I would have stayed as task force chief and participated. If you're going to do something, if you're going to learn French or a foreign language, the least you can do with your poor pronunciation is speak out. And I think there are certain things that are criminal, but you compound it by losing. If you're going to go into Angola, if you have some national compulsion to go into Angola, at least the United States position would be much stronger if you won. And if they had accepted my recommendation at that point, I would have been much happier if they had gone ahead and won than I was with the contemptible middle ground that they followed.
The overall life overseas is very agreeable. I think it's one of the things that a lot of men in the CIA want to stay out overseas. It's kind of a colonial existence. There are lots of servants, and the life is very easy. The housing is very adequate, if not plush.
We had about 6 white kids in our class, and then everybody just blended in. There was, a little bit of like racism or whatever on the teacher's part, and that she thought that the black kids were a little deprived and everything, but in the schools everybody got along.
It was a pleasant place for kids to grow up. I mean that you're living with the elite of that society in terms of education, basically, and experiences. The people who've traveled, the people who've been involved in a lot of experiences in life, ambassadors and the people who are running the country, and the diplomats in different embassies. And so they're sharp people, they're intelligent people, and they're well-bred generally, so the conduct is relatively high, a sense of culture.
When we were in Africa, I don't remember everything, but I don't remember so much about the schools. I mean, like when we were there, we'd go on our safaris, and we climbed Kenya and ran all over the place, and we were just ambitious, doing everything.
He was a little older and longer-legged, so he could go on hunting safaris. Mel was just about a year too young. He just couldn't quite pull it off, although he did a lot of the jogging with us. That's cheating. He's supposed to give us a little bit to get pumped up.